This is Max Mustard, a classic 3D platformer built for VR from the makers of Richie's Plank Experience, where you aid and control the titular character on an adventure to save as many creatures as possible. This releases March 21st, 2024 for the Quest 2 and Up headsets, with planned Steam and PSVR 2 releases later this year, and for this review, we checked out the game on the Quest 3. With games like Astrobot Rescue Mission, Ven VR Adventure, and even Lucky's Tale all bringing something special to our headsets, let's see if Toast Interactive can cut the mustard when it comes to 3D platformers. Hello animal rescuers, before we get to it, if you enjoy this video, a thumbs up really helps the channel out, subscribing keeps you up to date on our content, and leaving a comment gets you one step closer to figuring out the meaning of life. I'm Ryan for the VR Grid, now let's do this. I've always been a supporter of releasing non-first person titles in VR, as I think almost every genre can be made better by the medium if used correctly. It's a shame then that the 3D platformer has been largely ignored, with Astrobot Rescue Mission setting the bar when it comes to gameplay and interaction. Max Mustard looks to bring that quality to our headsets, as you control and aid Max after he witnesses a villainous businessman capture and cage some cute creatures with the plans to sell them to the super wealthy. It's not the most unique plot ever, but it's not like the narrative has ever been the most important aspect for this game type. There is a side story as Max receives fan mail that is much more serious in nature than anything else in the game, and it does have a payoff, it just feels a little tacked on and doesn't quite fit the vibe of the game. Like any traditional platformer, you'll be collecting various coins, killing enemy minions, and dodging obstacles, though there are a few VR specific interactions that make this more than just your average platformer. So the platforming, mechanics, and gameplay here are, overall, solid, offering up an experience very much akin to Rescue Mission. Max can jump and use his rocket boots to hover for a few seconds, making for some interesting platforming sections, as the game tries to lure you with those precious coins at the risk of death should you not be able to master Max's abilities. Enemies can be dispatched by jumping on them, or by using the various attacks you unlock as you play through the 40-stage story. To get all the coins and rescue all the creatures may require you to push Max's skills to his limit by making jumps that may seem almost too far, or navigating levels that require more precise timing. Collecting any of this stuff isn't required, save for the mud pups, which you will need a certain amount of to progress past certain stages, but for the most part they're hard to miss and fairly easy to grab. While it's not required, the coins you do collect can be spent at each level's store on upgrades and new abilities for Max that do make the game a little easier. These include longer rocket boosts, faster movement, and new attacks beyond just jumping on enemy heads. These are a great motivation to explore each stage, as most are littered with hidden areas and blocks that can yield more loot. As I said, you are not just controlling Max, as you also have a presence in the game thanks to some special items that pop up throughout the roughly 4 to 5 hour campaign. On occasion and during boss battles, you'll be tossed a gun of some type, typically a plunger gun, that lets you shoot down enemies or interact with the environment to help Max. Besides the usual stages, there will be additional levels that require you to take out targets as fast as possible with said gun, and challenge Max to get as many coins as possible in a short amount of time. Some stages also offer special moments like having to steer a raft down a river, a stage where gravity is reduced, allowing Max to jump way higher and further, and a few more that do a nice job of mixing up the action. This all makes for a relatively in-depth platformer that did motivate me to explore every nook and cranny, and ensure I paid attention for any extras hidden throughout each stage. I did find it to be a little on the easier side, with the later worlds offering more obstacles and challenges, though lives are unlimited and should you die, you'll start off with the last checkpoint button you had pushed. Some of these moments can be a little annoying, as the checkpoints can be a little far apart, though it's never more than a minute or two of jumping around to catch up to where you perished. The game does play with your view, with Max occasionally being higher than you or quite far away, which did cause me a few deaths, as it was a little challenging to move Max around when I couldn't see him or gaps in the environment, but that's a minor issue at worst. Max Mustard is nothing short of pleasant and polished, with nary a flaw in sight, save for the very few levels where your view isn't blocked by a large door and lets you see very far. It's in those stages where I did see some pop in way in the distance, but on the other side of that coin, I was impressed by just how far I could see in the first place, so I'm really just being nitpicky here. The cartoon art style used complements the casual and friendly gameplay, with every stage looking quite different, no matter which of the 4 worlds I was in. As the camera, you'll automatically follow Max as he navigates each stage, which can get a little tricky at times during those sections where he's hard to see, but these don't occur that often, and there is a quick turn option you can buy in the store, for dirt cheap, that lets you more easily view the action if turning all the way around in real life isn't an option. I rarely use the turn option, as the game is 99% designed to have enemies, loot, and creatures within 180 degrees in front of you, but if you do miss something, it's easy enough to look backwards, but the camera may fight you if you have Max go back too far. These are minor quibbles though, and I really appreciated the charm in every stage, and their general design made them look and feel like complete stages, unlike something like Ven VR Adventure, which had some stages feel like assets were just floating over still image backgrounds. Enemies come in a decent variety, traps and obstacles even more so, and from beginning to end, I really appreciated the throwback vibe this was clearly going for. Oh, the boss moments are the most VR AF moments in here, as they are quite large, usually get in your face, and require you to not only control Max, but involve you in some way, typically shooting at them with your plunger gun when their weak spots are exposed. One last, once again, minor issue is the noticeable aliasing on the Quest 3, which doesn't ruin the game, but I find jaggies distracting, so now you know. Bottom line here is this is a polished looking title loaded with casual charm. Not much to say about the audio other than the fact it fits perfect with enemies all making their appropriate noises and the environments all sounding as they should. The soundtrack ranges from some generic tunes to fairly dramatic ones, and when I didn't notice the music, it typically fell nicely in the background, but when I did notice it, it was a very catchy track, and as this happened on more than a few occasions, I'm gonna say the soundtrack in here is pretty good. 3D audio is on point and can clue you into where those captured creatures may be hiding, with my only real gripe when it comes to the audio being that I found the bosses to be way too quiet, to a point where it sounded like sounds were just missing. These fights were never in complete silence, it just felt to me like these big bad bosses could have made some bigger, badder noises. Max Mustard is a really fun, traditional 3D platformer made better by VR. It doesn't really break the mold when it comes to the genre, but it doesn't have to, and instead embraces its roots, pays homage to its predecessors, and uses the VR medium enough to make it feel special. Fans of the other titles I have mentioned in this review should rejoice, as I think this is easily one of my favorite VR platformers that offers up enough unique gameplay elements to easily recommend for the asking price for those looking for more casual fun. I'm going to give Max Mustard an 8.5 out of 10. This is some solid VR platforming. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to do all the YouTube things to help us out. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.